Hey guys, so upon request, I did want to go over number 11 real quick. Um, it's probably confusing you guys of what you have to do because it wants you to leave it in fraction form. So it actually makes it a little bit easier on us. So if we could just go down this first row with all the A values. So remember, these A's are really the measurements, right? So it's going to be an angle. So it says A, so we're looking for angle A. So this is going to be our reference angle. So we can just star that. So we're just looking at angle A right now. Let's ignore this column. So sine of A, sine is, well, first let's write our SOHCAHTOA. Make sure we write this down every time we work with trig. So if we're working with sine, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. And if we look at our reference angle, let's mark these. One is going to be our opposite. Hypotenuse is right across from the 90-degree angle, and adjacent is right next to our reference angle. So if we're doing opposite over hypotenuse for sine, so we're going to have 1 over 2 for sine because sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So we have 1 over 2. If we're looking at cosine, we look up here, we have adjacent over hypotenuse. So we look here, we have adjacent is root 3. Hypotenuse is 2. And remember, it wants to leave it in fraction form, so once we have these, that's all it's asking for. If we look at tangent, it's opposite over adjacent. So we have opposite is 1 over adjacent is root 3. But since we have a square root in the denominator, we want to change that. We want to have the denominator free of square roots. So we're going to do what we call rationalizing. So you multiply by root 3 on the numerator and the denominator, and you're going to be left with root 3 over, and then when you have root 3 times root 3, it's like saying root 3 squared, so it's really going to cancel that. It's just 3. So we have 1/2, root 3 over 2, and root 3 over 3. So the tricky part is when we transition to the second column. This time we're working with, I use a different colored pen. This time we're working with C instead of A. So the one thing that's going to change, or a couple things are going to change with this, is we're changing the angle that we're going to be using as our reference. So previously we used A. Now we have to use C. So we're going to be working with the one up here. So that's also going to change what these are. Hypotenuse is always going to be across from the 90 degree, so you don't have to change that. But if you're going to change the adjacent and the opposite, because now opposite of C is root 3, and before we had adjacent, so we have to change that, and right next to angle C we used to be opposite, now it's adjacent. So those are the two things you have to make sure that you are careful about when you're changing your reference angle. So to finish this off, for sine it's opposite over hypotenuse, so let's look at our changed opposite and adjacent and hypotenuse sides. So opposite is now root 3. Hypotenuse is still 2. If we look at cosine, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So we have adjacent as 1. Hypotenuse is 2. So that is just 1/2. And then to wrap it up, we look at tangent. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So opposite is root 3. Adjacent is 1, which is just root 3. So on this side we have root 3 over 2, 1 over 2, and root 3. So hopefully that clears up some of the confusion with these. You might have been making it a little harder than the question was asking for, which is fine. You probably were doing some more like inverse properties and stuff like that, which you'll work with a little bit more in the future. So if you have any more questions, definitely feel free to post anything on my Edmodo. If you want me to go over another problem, definitely feel free to do that as well. But Edmodo is the best way to get a hold of me.